the Christmas classic Remember the Night from 1940. Remember the Night stars Barbara Stanwyck as Lee Leander. She's a frequent shoplifter who has just been caught trying to pawn an expensive bracelet she swiped from a jewelry store. She's soon arrested and brought to the courthouse. District Attorney John Sargent, played by Fred MacMurray, has been assigned to prosecute her. He's not looking forward to it because it's Christmas Eve and he was just on his way to spend the holiday with his family. John takes pity on Lee and arranges for a bondsman to post bail for her so she doesn't have to spend Christmas in jail. Now these two are polar opposites. John is a straight-laced attorney, Lee is a jaded criminal. But they find something in common when it's revealed that they're both from Indiana. John and Lee go on a road trip with the intent of dropping off Lee to her family home before John arrives at his. Lee is received coldly by her cruel and unloving mother. John can't bring himself to leave her there and instead invites Lee to spend Christmas with his family. Things get complicated when John and Lee start falling in love, knowing that Lee still has to face jail time for her crimes. So Remember the Night. It's really earned the label of Christmas classic within the last decade or so, thanks a lot to Turner Classic Movies, who keeps it in their regular rotation of Christmas classics every year on the channel. In fact, if you go to their website, you can see a introduction by Robert Osborne from 2015 for the movie, and I highly recommend you watch that. I'll link it down below. And it's easy to see why this is a Christmas classic. It's an unassuming story. You have the storyline of like kindness and generosity and family and the whole theme of second chances. It's really heartwarming and inspiring. Although I'll have to say, when I first watched Remember the Night, I did not like it at all. It definitely improved on this new viewing for sure, but I still struggle with the first 30 minutes, especially the representation of Black characters really sours it for me. And I mean, the first 30 minutes are really a courtroom drama. There's a bit of sexism in it too. But if you move on to the last hour of the movie, that's when it becomes like a cozy Christmas love story. And it really benefits from that last hour. So even on the next viewing, I might just fast forward to the good part. This film, I think, on this viewing in particular, I noticed how it makes the case for nurture instead of nature, because in the story you see Barbara Stanwyck, her character grew up with this cold and hateful mother who was outspoken about her expectations of her daughter becoming a criminal. She just expected so little of her. So basically, the Barbara Stanwyck's character is set up for failure. And then in contrast, you have Fred MacMurray's character, who comes from a loving family who believes in him. I mean, there's also this scene where he is playing Swanee River and he's not doing a great job of it, but they're all looking on him so lovingly and supportively. And they instilled in him this belief that he could, if he puts his mind to it, he could do anything. And then he, eventually, studies and becomes a district attorney. So you see this family who's like warm and caring and supportive. And then Barbara Stanwyck's background is completely different. And because there's such a stark contrast in those families, when the story puts Barbara Stanwyck's character in the world of Fred MacMurray's family, you can see her coming to realize that there are families who like love each other and are supportive, and you see her start to change too. And Barbara Stanwyck does a really great job with the facial expressions when she's starting to realize things. And they do have to throw some drama in there where, which I think is a shame, but it has to be a plot point to move the story along, where the mother character is like trying to convince Barbara Stanwyck to stay away from her son. But I don't think that would have happened in the world of the characters, but I think to move the plot along, it had to happen. Okay, some interesting facts about Remember the Night. This is a Paramount film directed by Mitchell Leisen. It was based on an original story by Preston Sturges. This was Preston Sturges in his screenwriting career right before he started to become a film director with The Great McGinty, which followed shortly after this. And according to Jeremy Arnold in this book here, Christmas in the Movies, which I've talked a few times on this channel about, Preston Sturges would frequently go on set and he got to know Barbara Stanwyck, and he was so impressed with her that he promised her that he'd write her a screwball comedy, and that eventually became The Lady Eve from 1941. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And he co-wrote that and directed it, and obviously she stars in it. You may have noticed in different listings of this movie, it's either Remember the Night from 1939 or 1940. And it's a little tricky because technically this came out December 31st, 1939. That was the big release, like the world premiere, the release. However, the extended release where the public got to see the movie wasn't until mid-January of 1940. So I'll call it 1940 because that's when the general public would have seen it, and December 31st is just so close to 1940. It might as well be 1940. The film at the time was really well received. There's a really great quote from Fred Nugent of the New York Times. I'll read it here. "It is a memorable film in title and in quality, blessed with an honest script, good direction, and sound performances. A drama stated in the simplest human terms of comedy and sentiment, tenderness and generosity, warm, pleasant, and unusually entertaining." Lots of adjectives there, and that's spot on. Back to the release date of this, and I had asked Jeremy Arnold of Christmas in the Movies about it because this is a movie that's very distinctly Christmas. There is a New Year's scene too, but why would it have been released to the general public mid-January? Wouldn't it have made sense to release it a little earlier? And what about other Christmas movies? You have like Miracle on 34th Street, Christmas in Connecticut, and those were released in the middle of summer, which seems strange for Christmas movies. So I asked Jeremy Arnold what was the case with this, and he said that watching movies about Christmas around Christmas time wasn't a thing until like the 1950s, where a lot of households had televisions and they were watching these old classics on TV and staying home, watching TV, celebrating Christmas. Christmas movies just became part of the Christmas tradition of celebration. So I thought that was really interesting because it just seems kind of silly to release them in the middle of summer or like way after Christmas. But if you think about it, these were just stories that just happened to take place in these times, but it didn't really matter because the tradition of watching Christmas movies at Christmas hadn't happened yet. So I thought that was interesting. Some other facts here. This is the first of 4 films that Barbara Stanwyck and Fred MacMurray starred in together. The most famous is Double Indemnity from 1944, which is the most film noir of film noirs, usually it's called. And they play off beautifully, both in Remember the Night and Double Indemnity. And they have this like on-screen chemistry that's really quite electric. It's just really fun to watch. And in Remember the Night, you have a bad girl transformed by a good guy. And then in Double Indemnity, you have a good guy transformed by a bad girl. And it just goes to show that they still had that chemistry, even though their characters and the storylines were just completely different. And I'll just quickly show on the screen this ad from Modern Screen, which says, "Bad girl, good guy, great picture." That was like the tagline for this ad, which I thought was great. And I thought I'd just point out that Beulah Bondi has a meaningful supporting role in this as Fred MacMurray's mother. I had mentioned her role earlier. And then Sterling Holloway. I love Sterling Holloway, and he has a really cute bit part as Fred MacMurray's brother. Remember the Night is available on Blu-ray and DVD, made on demand from Universal. It's also available to stream right now on the Criterion channel as part of their A Barbara Stanwyck Christmas lineup, which is fun, and that's how I saw it. And also, as I said before, Turner Classic Movies shows it pretty much every year around the holidays, so you can watch it there as well.